Hey guys, it is Jouelzy. I feel like I'm looking fabulous today. I'm feeling it. You know what's funny is I say my name at the beginning of every video. I went to BeautyCon yesterday. This is where the story is coming from. But I say my name at the beginning of every video and people are always still like, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Jouelzy or Jouelzy? Actually, I think Shameless Maya asked me that. She said because somebody had corrected her about how to pronounce my name, which means she's been talking about me. Watch my IMATS recap. I wasn't really a fan of IMATS, but BeautyCon was just so much more enjoyable, and I had like a good time. But that is not what this video is about at all. I will have to do a BeautyCon haul recap. Yeah, I'll be doing a review of Chimamanda Ngozi. Is it Ngozi or Ngozi? Ngozi? Maybe I should listen to her pronounce her name before I do this review. Let me butcher this like a true American. Adichie. Chimamanda, whatever. Americanah. So, before we even get into this review, I have another thing to talk about. I'm publishing a book. Oh, here's a book cover. I have a book. It's coming out sometime next month. I'm self-publishing it. It'll be available on CreateSpace, Amazon, and probably a few other outlets. I'm working on that now. It will be available internationally. It is called, if you can see, can you see it? It is called Send It On. The cover will look slightly different because, as you can see, I forgot to put my name on the front. It's just the proof that I got in last week. So I've been spending all week and too much time and not enough sleep working on finishing this book. It is a collection of short stories, fiction based on real life. Some of them have been published on Jouelzy.com. I will leave a link down below where you can read some of the short stories that I've already published on my blog that will be included in this book, so you can kind of get a feel. But, you know, generally speaking, my friends all have been asking me what is the book about, and I'd be like, niggas and emo shit. That's like what it really is about, though. It's just about relationships and coming of age and, you know, how do I say it? Love and vulnerability and faith and love. Hence the title is Send It On. All you real people with great musical taste will know where this title comes from. And that song is about the same thing that the book is about. I'm probably not really going to talk about it too much on YouTube until I have the release date. I'm just trying to kind of get all my stuff together and be more organized with how I reach out and engage you guys and move a lot of things off of YouTube because I'm trying to move this whole thing off of YouTube. So if you are interested and want to know more about the book, I will be doing a book giveaway. I will be doing a book launch party. Hopefully, I don't know yet, I could do a book tour. But all that stuff, I'm going to streamline it into a separate newsletter specifically for Jouelzy, the author, the writer of Send It On. And if you want to know, sign up down below so you can be the first in the know for when I decide on an official launch date. It'll definitely be in June when I do the party and all the other stuff about how you can get your hands on this and what will be going on this. Mail list will be down below. Sign up. All right, so let's get into this. Americanah. So, the whole reason why I read this book was because I did the African versus African American. I did the video with Evelyn from the internet, who I'm going to see in 4 days. So much fun. Overwhelming response. I didn't realize, it made me feel a little small and diminutive too, because I didn't realize how much of my audience was African or children of African immigrants. And in the grand scheme of things, you know, I think kind of today in America, you have to realize how much the regular black or black American, how dwindling we are. And it's not a bad thing because I don't think we're going to lose our culture or anything. Even in New York, that's where I kind of picked up the term regular black, because in New York, everybody asks you where you're from. And when you're like, Delaware, they're like, no, where's your family from? And I'm like, oh, well, my dad's from Polk County, Florida. No, but where your grandparents from? And I'm like, okay, I'm regular black, because you don't want to say we're descendants of slaves. It's a little awkward. Even though, you know, I am house slave, field Negro, and a dash if I got Indian in my family. Never forget, boo boo. It is interesting to see how expansive kind of the African experience is coming in context to America, and that I do feel that how small the kind of black American collective is coming. You know, I feel like just about everybody in America could kind of say they have somebody in their family in recent years that is an immigrant from another country. So, you know, typically I think the black American, or I like to call it African American, so F whatever y'all think, but the African American experience would be that you can't really trace your lineage back past slaves. But my sister's married to a Jamaican, and even if I look at most of my friends, you know, they might have a Nigerian parent or a Trinidadian parent, just something that I never really thought of. So it was interesting to see how many people kind of related to Evelyn and were like, shut up, Jouelzy, we don't want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear Evelyn. And maybe you can press Evelyn to continue the conversation on her channel. But a lot of people, including Evelyn, said to read this book. And one, I'm kind of mad that nobody told me that the book was so damn long. This issue is like almost 600 pages. Like, I don't know why I thought it was going to be a shorter read. But everyone said they really related to it. And so I was like, oh wait, well, as a African American, you know, as an American, I'm going to read this book and see maybe if I'll understand more of the nuances of the experiences. A lot of y'all stand for Chimamanda. She's cool. Beyonce quoted her, used her voice in one of her songs. I think she is an excellent writer. But, y'all gonna hate me because I really, like, I didn't dislike the book, but I didn't love it neither. Like, I also have A Yellow Sun, which I'm probably going to read sometime next month. And it looks like it's a lot shorter and it might be more of an interesting read for me. But I didn't dislike the book. You know, I read the entire thing. It took me about a week and a half. Y'all that said y'all read this book in 2 days, like, I don't know how you did it. I think, all right, let me just get into kind of what my issues were with the book. I would still recommend this as a read, but it's not a simple read. Chimamanda is very, she just goes into a lot of detail about a lot of things that I didn't think were necessary. And so, and you know, I love me some Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and he's also a very kind of languid writer in that he does a lot, he like builds the scene up. It was very expansive into setting up the scene and the scenery. But I feel like with his writing, it makes sense because a lot of those nuances would build into the motif of the book and it would come back around. So when I'm reading her book, when I first started reading it, I was really reading the book and trying to pay attention to all the details because I was thinking these things are going to come back into context later on in the book. And when they don't, you're just like, why did she spend so much time explaining a character, like a minor character, that doesn't come into play at all again in the book? And so I did get towards the middle of it and I just started skimming. The book is basically about this character, Ifemelu. I apologize if I like ruin these Nigerian names. I'm not Nigerian. Excuse me in my American ignorance and not knowing how to pronounce this correctly. But Ifemelu is Nigerian, and the book opens with her already being in America. And then it goes back to her days in Nigeria, and you learn about this boy who's from Nsukka, which is somewhere in Igbo land, right? I want to just call him Obi, but Obinze, we're going to call him Obi. So Obi come from Nsukka, and her and Obi end up, you know, ending up in a relationship. And so for a lot of the book, I was waiting for this relationship and how their paths were going to cross back together. I thought that was going to be like more of a stronger point in the book, and it was just so disappointing with even how they ended it, like, because they end up reconnecting and you finally, it's just weird. She kind of, for like all the details that she goes over and all the scenery and character setups that she builds up to, you thought there was going to be more about Ife and Obi, and I was just a little disappointed with that didn't really stick out to me in the book. Another thing, all the Black American characters in the book are just whack. Like, they are, I don't know when y'all be coming over to America, what type of black folk y'all be meeting, but like, they're just like, they were so like, you know what, Alice Walker, right? If you've ever read like Color Purple, A Temple of Mind Familiar, which is my favorite book, you can tell when they don't like a certain type of person or character because those characters tend to be very underdeveloped. So like Alice Walker, she don't like men. So like all her books, including Color Purple, and not the Steven Spielberg produced movie, because he does develop the male characters more, but in the actual book, the male characters are just all very two-dimensional and boring and whack. Character flaw, like major hubris, and you just are not effing with them. And that was the same way I felt with Chimamanda's kind of reckoning with Black Americans. Like, so Ife, can I call it Ife? Ife ends up in a relationship with Blaine. It's just like snooze fest, like, so bougie. And I just thought maybe there would be more balance with the characters that were in America, you know, having the same kind of interesting nuances that she gives to her Nigerian people. in the book, and it just didn't happen. So Ife ends up in school in Philadelphia, and she's in a class, and they're talking about like race or whatever, and like one of the black girl in the class, the black American girl, says, well, your people sold me into slavery. All the kind of people, the Africans that she comes into contact with in the book, they all kind of have some depth and, you know, some understanding, and she gives them the time of day in the book. But like the one black person that she comes across prior to Blaine, she just so dismisses the girl, and there's no kind of extra conversation. There is no opportunity for understanding. There is no kind of I just felt like there could have been more there, and there wasn't. And as a black American, it is just kind of like, damn, do people just dismiss us like that? And like, there isn't even any opportunity for understanding or growth in that relationship. And then you get to Blaine, and he's ultimate snooze fest. Jouelzy, even though it's noble that he wants to help all the black people, and he can code switch and all that, but he just sounds so like, And his sister, I don't even remember her name, but she just sounded horrible. She sounded like somebody who would have a really tacky weave. Too much money for her to have a tacky weave. Like, that's just how I visualized her in my life. Like, her hair just was like, why you got so much access and money and your hair look like that? Like, why? One thing that I did realize from this book is I didn't realize that it was so hard to get a visa to get into America. And maybe I did realize that because I had a homegirl from Nigeria in college, Titi, and I remember when she went back home for like Christmas break, she had a hard time coming back over. It's like she ended up missing like half of spring semester. And I was just like, why can't you just get a visa? I remember like talking to her via like G-Chat, like, what I gotta do? Do I gotta go down to the U.S. Embassy? Like, I don't get this. Like, what's wrong? And I didn't realize that it was that difficult. So it does kind of give you more of an understanding of coming into America or just trying to get to America in the first place. And that kind of whole, like, the struggle of getting here. And then once you get here, the struggle of trying to, like, you know, settle in and like make a name for yourself. Nigerians or West Africans in general kind of feed into class. And it definitely came up in the book about how America is like overzealous and talks a lot about race. We're a very race-focused country. And I guess to the rest of the world, that's weird because supposedly they don't see race. And I don't believe that statement. I think they just don't have a word for what it is they see. It's a class issue. And that's what I've noticed has been the big difference between like how I see the world and how my kind of African counterparts see the world, is that I could say, oh, you're black, you're white. There are things that people kind of play us against each other with, but it's a lot harder to kind of identify classism. I think it's kind of interesting to see other people talk about how much, in a negative way, how much America is race focused. And I'm like, but like we've gotten so far ahead because we can talk about race. We've been able to have a civil rights movement, be vocal about it, and say you're segregating me based on my race. And it's a lot harder to say you're segregating on me against my class. You're segregating me because I'm poor, because then everybody turns around and will just work your way up. Why are you poor? Like, you put yourself there. America has a class issue too, but I would rather deal with a race issue than have to overcome a class issue, because even in this book, even Ife, who seems a lot more open-minded than her counterparts, as an adult, still will look at her peers from high school and, you know, and be like, oh, well, their class will never allow them to be greater in her mind. And that's just kind of like an issue. Like, I mean, it's not something that I'm interested in being a part of. A lot of the issues to me that Ife ran into in coming to America were because she never took the opportunity to get to know Black Americans. You think that we see race. I think a lot of Africans see class, and they can't get over that, so they don't understand how we talk, and we don't understand like why they think the way they think. But these class issues also got her into a lot of unnecessary issues. So like the breakdown between her and Obi, because when she left Nigeria to come to America, she was still in contact and still in a long-distance relationship with Obi, and she did something because she ended up moving in with a house full of white girls in Philadelphia, and didn't have no monies, and she couldn't figure out how to get no monies, and she only had her one Nigerian friend to help her put her on. And I'm thinking, you know, if you had just gotten to know some of the Black kids at your school, you wouldn't have had to go on a Craigslist hustle like you did and kind of go through this long, like 15-year breakup with like the love of your life. It was just like, cause girl, I've been there. Like, I get the not having any money. And a lot of us get that because we've lived in America for so long and weren't born with silver spoons in our mouth, and we were born poor, and we get it. I just feel like her experience would have been a little bit different if she had met, you know, an upwardly mobile, open-minded Black American who could have put her on to how to make it in America, because we've been doing it. It is so interesting when people say they don't see race, but you put up with like this ignorant behavior of white people because of class, and you thinking they're automatically upper class. But a Black girl makes a rude statement, but obviously she's self-intelligent because she's in the class having this discourse with you, and you don't give her any time of day. And I feel like those are the relationships that potentially might have been more fruitful to her being able to make it and having an easier experience in America than these white girls who were just so rude, so nasty, and so rude for no reason. Her aunt came to America. Who the fuck eats hot dogs boiled? Like, yuck. That is not an American thing. That's certainly not a Black American thing. I put my hot dogs in a frying pan, and if I have a choice, I will eat a sausage before I ever eat a hot dog. So I don't know what part of America your nephew was assimilating to, but he wasn't assimilating to my part of America, because we don't do that over here, boo-boo. We do not eat boiled hot dogs. They're nasty. Having kind of like a personal reaction to it, because I'm just thinking, this is such a weird experience, and I think you're kind of putting yourself in really difficult places. Some of the characters in the book I didn't like see, like I didn't really get, like I thought like Ife becomes a nanny, right, to this white family, and they have this daughter whose name I'm not remembering because she wasn't important. And they go through this kind of whole relationship about how the daughter's difficult and she doesn't really have a relationship with her father, and she's just like a little angsty little white girl for no reason. Like one of those overly serious at like 6. Like, you don't even have a hard life. Like, why do you already have the RBF face? Like, resting bitch face at 6 years old. Like, get it together, girl. You need to be tickled by Emma or something, because it's just like, we don't understand your struggle because you don't have any. There's gonna be some breakthrough or some nuance or some point, or is gonna place them into some motif, and it just was like, okay, so she existed, she was difficult for no reason, and then we move on. And I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I did find Obies Story very interesting, and I kind of, again, I wish his story was just developed a little bit more. I would have loved to hear more about his experience, because of all the characters in the book, even more so than Ife, he seemed to be the most humble and open-minded and reasonable, that it would have been just great to hear more from him and his story. Like, he went to London, even though he always dreamed of going to America, but he never had the opportunity. I did not realize that so many people were using fake IDs. But you know, in getting swindled left and right and just trying to make it, and being heartbroken at how Ife just kind of went cold and, you know, didn't contact him for like 12 years. And even like his mother was just such an interesting character. I just wish there was more to his story. Like, I really enjoyed Obies' story more than any other character in the book, because he wasn't bougie or pretentious or like had all these kind of stuck up notions about how other people should be living. He was, you know, being open to kind of a cross-cultural connection that I didn't feel like resonated with any other character. But I can get why somebody else would get Ife's story and be really connected to the story, because I guess maybe I'm just too American. But Uju's story was just interesting, especially in the context of her son and her son's identity with being a Nigerian who was largely raised in America and then not going back to Nigeria until a teenager. I also wish that story was more developed. I just thought there was a lot of time spent on stories that didn't really do a lot for me, and the stories that I wanted to hear more of just kind of, they didn't really fall flat, because obviously I had an emotional investment in them, and I had some sort, you know, I responded to it, and it was like, oh, I want to know more. I just wish there was more. Interesting thing that I thought of the book was that it was interesting how much she kind of gives credence to what I thought was just negative stereotypes of Nigerians. I don't know how to say this. I'm like, past few weeks, I've heard a lot about Nigerians just being swindlers, in that no matter how well you know them, a Nigerian will always, generally speaking, be about doing whatever they need to do to get what they want out of a situation. It's not an issue of whether they're poor Nigerians or wealthy Nigerians. It's just Nigerians in general will do what they need to do to get ahead and talk the talk and sell you a story, and just, they are not the most trustworthy of people. And I've heard this quite often from other, not even just Black Americans, but from other Africans. And so when when the characters in her book are those type of people, I was just like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this. Like, wash away my negative stereotype. Because, when I hear my friends say that, I tell them, no, you can't say that. We don't do that. But when you read a book by another Nigerian and it's kind of like, no, my people are like that. It's just like, oh. How am I supposed to feel about this? What am I supposed to think? I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to nod my head when even how people are doing business in the book. And when I nod my head, I'm like, yeah, no, it makes total sense. I feel bad. I'm not Nigerian. I'm not supposed to think these things about Nigerian people. Like, why? Why for? Why? You should all read this book. If you've read this book, tell me what you really thought about this book. If you were one of the people that like claim you read this shit in 2 days, I don't believe you. But I would like to hear the central themes of the book that you really enjoyed. Who was your favorite character? Who was your favorite character that Ife interacted with? What scene was really personal to you and really made you think about, who you are and how you interact, sense of things? I would love to talk a little bit more about this because I'm a little concerned that my opinion might be a little too American centric and I don't want to offend anybody culturally, but I had a very reaction to a lot of things in this book. That's all. Thanks for watching. Listen to me ramble. You guys are all awesome. As always, like this video, thumbs up, leave a comment. I don't know if you thumbs up the video or not. I can only see the numbers. I can't see who thumbs up my videos, but I know who comments. And so when you meet me up in the street and you want to have a discussion, talk to me about stuff, I always ask people's names because I pay attention to who's commenting on my videos. So comment below, like me on Facebook, help out my struggle numbers, and follow me on Twitter. As always, it's Jouelzy. I'm out. Deuces.